Broadcasting from Baltimore, Maryland, this is 5x3 Radio, where strength is for everyone. I'm your host, Emily Sokolinski, owner of 5x3 Training, a strength and conditioning gym in Baltimore, along with my co-host, Rebecca Fishburne, founder of Cornerstone Strength Maryland. Each week, Rebecca and I will discuss the ins and outs of strength training, why there is a no one-size-fits-all approach, and why strength is so important in our daily lives. Thanks for spending some time with us today. Now, on with the show. Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the 5x3 Radio Podcast with Emily and Rebecca. Today, our discussion is on accessory lifts. Yes, a good topic to discuss because everyone wants to do curls.
Well, not everyone, but lots of people.
Lots of people want to do curls. And when we do curls, none of us, well, an exception is, most of us do not curl in the squat rack. We curl with dumbbells. We curl the way Diego curls because Diego has, the wise one. I've been schooled on the correct way to do dumbbell curls. So I do dumbbell curls. But yes, so accessory lifts today. What are they? Why should you do them? Why are they good for you? I don't say why they are important, but they're important. They're the fun stuff, right? They're the fun exercises we get to do after we lift the big heavy things.
The dessert. The
exactly.
dessert after the meat and potatoes lift.
I call them the dessert. I call them the dessert because that's what I think of them as. And we did a podcast not too long ago on variations on the lifts. I think it was like more these. That was the assistance exercises, right? RDLs, single leg, stiff-legged deadlifts, right? Good mornings, things like that. So this would be kind of this is more, those smaller muscles, to balance yourself out correctly. Muscle confusion.
That sounds kind of bodybuilder-ish of you there.
It is. And I think there's nothing wrong with that, right? There's nothing wrong with wanting to be a bodybuilder at times. Eventually benching and pressing is not going to just miraculously make that bench or press that much bigger. Right? Sometimes you need a little extra work.
Emily.
Yes.
How would you define an accessory lift?
It's a good question.
Which ones? Yeah.
I have a whole list of accessory lifts. I mean, they are complementary to your basic barbell lifts. They are
complementary, smaller muscles.
Yes. They are your triceps, your biceps. Just have to come to the gym and watch Diego and Jay working out on the cable machine. It's awesome. They have created a leg extension, single leg extension, with the cable machine where they attach a strap to their foot, sit on a stool, and then and do leg extensions and listen to Diego moan. If I had a lunk alarm, it'd be right there next to the cable machine. So these are your extras, as we said. We kind of said it was the dessert, the little extras that you would do at the end of your session to gain a little bit more muscle mass, to produce a little bit more, allow you to produce a little bit more strength for the bigger lifts, to grow some shoulders, to grow your back, in order to hopefully add more weight to the bar with with your squat, with your bench, with your press, with your deadlift. They make you sweat.
Okay, so why do they make you sweat more than any of the other lifts?
Well, you tell me why.
Well, I'm going to guess you're going to say because it's usually a higher rep range.
Much higher rep range. Yeah. Okay. Whereas you're doing 3s and 5s with your squat and your deadlift and your bench and your press, you're probably doing somewhere between 8 to 12.
I can get a little hot on my heavy squat though.
No, you can, but with the accessory work, I mean, I know as I program myself, I'll maybe do 4 or 5 exercises within a set, and I'm going from set to set to set to set without a break. And you're doing a heavy enough row, a dumbbell row with a with a 40-pound dumbbell, and you're allowing that arm to reach all the way down the floor, so you get a really big stretch in the lats, and then have to squeeze and pull that right back up. After 10. It's getting hard. You're only using one side of your body here. I mean, the whole body is engaged, but, you're working a little bit overtime. It is interesting how those, you're using a lot less muscle mass there too, of course, to do that exercise. So it's going to take a little bit, it's going to be, there's more effort involved, even though it doesn't feel like it because it's much less weight than what you just squatted over there. But I don't pant nearly as much when I squat as when I do my dumbbell rows. And I see my other clients the same thing. It doesn't, they don't work less, they work more, it seems, once they hit that circuit. So,
so like you get higher up in the rep range, you get closer to like cardio rep range too, or whatever too. So that all makes sense.
You may be going to failure with some of them. So, I mean, there are many different ways to program your accessory lifts. I really like following Jim Wendler's his various programs in 531, not necessarily the 531 barbell program, but when he has the extras, like all the accessory exercises that you can do. Or if you're doing a program where you're doing one big lift, let's say you're only squatting, well, then all your exercises after that you could do as a circuit would be all relevant to the squat day, right? They're all going to be all going to be leg and back exercises. And then your upper body day, your press, your circuit of all your accessory work would be all related to upper body, your face pulls, your pull aparts, your rows, your curls, your tries, your shoulder, all that. So I often like going to that program and kind of playing around with that and pulling out the exercises that I like to create kind of a nice, well-rounded circuit there to assist me with those, with my big exercise. Like today, I just pressed. So today is a press day for me. It's Thursday. I do a 4-day split. And I'm getting back into the program that I was on before I got sick, which was actually trying to prep me for a kind of a mock press deadlift meet, my own little Stronger Together meet, because I wanted to work on my deadlift. Yeah. So my program was focused on pressing and deadlifting. So I pressed 4 days a week. And I decided just to do some volume. So it was like two top singles and then some volume pressing. And that was it. And then I'm not benching. I'm only doing like close grip bench. So I moved on to my circuit, which was dumbbell bench, seated rows with the cable machine, some tricep work, and curls. And I do all 4 of those, one after the other, and then take a couple minutes to rest and then repeat that again. So all of those exercises are related to the upper body. You've got your dumbbell bench instead of just benching with the barbells. I get a much bigger range of motion. With the dumbbells, I can really get a bigger stretch through the pecs that way. And then I've got my rows.
Let me ask you about that too, though. Like, do you find there's benefit to doing single arm, single leg work in terms of stability? Does that, or balancing out the strength on one side versus the other side if somebody's like one side?
Absolutely. I mean, I haven't, I'm not doing any, I'm trying to think of, I guess the single arm work I do is more for the triceps. That's what I've been doing right now. Except for one tricep exercise, I do kind of press downs with like the rope. But I definitely, definitely tend to, we mix it, you should mix it up. Right now I'm doing single arm. I do a single arm tricep exercise, and then I have a, bilateral, exercise that I do. One of my clients, I'll jump over to that. One of my clients has been with us for almost a year now. She came to us after her, surgery for her, frozen shoulder. So she's gained a tremendous amount of strength. Her press, she's overhead pressing with a bar, which she could barely press the 10-pound bar when she first started. I mean, we didn't even bother to do that. We did Viking presses with her. But now she goes back and forth between both, but she's primarily using the barbell. But you can definitely see her compensating because the right arm doesn't have as much strength or flexibility or mobility as the left arm. So you can see the muscles trying to like push that arm up. And Diego's watching one day, and this is now that she's actually pressing heavier weight. It's clear. It's much more clear to clearly seen in her. He said, we need to start doing some actual unilateral single arm work to get that arm not trying to do, basically something else in order to, achieve that position. So we started doing some seated dumbbell presses, just real light, just with that right arm. She can't really do a weight or walk, which is, the weight up in your hand with the shoulder, kind of locked down.
Can, or she
can't. She can't.
She can't get her arm up.
But I'd like her to do that. I mean, I think that would be, we've kind of did it. We've done that. We've tried that a little bit. But yes, for her,
like a situation like that, sometimes it's nice when you're doing the barbell because the stronger arm with the greater range of motion takes the other one along for a ride. But like you're saying, you kind of play this balancing game between the two. At what point does taking the frozen shoulder arm, or the limited range of motion arm along for the ride, not benefit as much? Like, how do you balance, between the two? And it's sort of, I think I do something similar to what you're describing you and Diego doing, just watching how the person moves and seeing when the compensations become great enough or pronounced enough that it's like, okay, let's try something else for a little while. Let's try and get the other arm to catch up. So.
Yeah, exactly. And you're absolutely right. Sometimes the other arm will just kind of go along for the ride. It will come with it. And then sometimes a little extra help, is needed. And that's where the single arm or single leg work comes in. In Carly's case, it definitely was for her for some rehab purposes, right? We need to do that as she's getting stronger, as she's getting better with the exercises, and she's able to now press overhead better. We need to start to focus more on that right arm, give a little extra attention in order to help her continue to add weight and get stronger. And also gain some more, mobility in that shoulder. So going back to, all that we're talking about, accessory lifts, they're great for, for kind of bodybuilding purposes, gaining more muscle, complementing the big lifts. They're also great, of course, for rehabbing, focusing on, especially if you're doing any unilateral work. So it is important, I think. We squat, we press, we bench, we deadlift. We use two arms, we use two legs. Well, sometimes, we're all asymmetrical. It's good to allow ourselves to pay some attention to one side of the body versus the other. I've done it for my right leg. I've done it for my left arm. I've done it for my left arm.
Yeah, and like the situation you're describing there with your deadlift is connected to something pretty dramatic, like a surgery.
Yes, right.
But people, like you're discussing right now, use their bodies differently throughout the day, right? So if they're doing things both sides when they're in the gym and expecting both sides to show up with the same amount of strength, but they go through the rest of their life primarily using their dominant side, that side is obviously going to be stronger, maybe have, better neuromuscular connection, be more like ready to go.
Right.
And so the point at which the weaker sides starting to impact form is usually a good for me anyway. I think a good indicator, like, okay, let's try and bring in some single leg or single arm work for a little bit.
Yeah. And I think I've always said, everyone, yes, we teach people how to squat, bench, press, and deadlift. Good. Those are your you're using every muscle part of your body as possible, as much as possible. They're the big lifts. They're the full body. We should all know how to do a push-up. We should all know how to do a lunge. We should all be able to do a row.
Forward, rear, and lateral lunge.
Exactly.
Like, with all of these like big lifts, right? The 4 big lifts, you're mostly working in the sagittal plane. That's not how you function in the real world. Sometimes you gotta like jump out to the side, or you gotta cross body something.
So I like
all planes of motion.
I think once our lifters, like our newer lifters, right, they're put on their program, we don't really add much else into it. Maybe we start some push-ups. Maybe we start doing some chin-ups, but it's really the focus is on just establishing a foundation of strength and getting them to move, getting them to learn how to hinge, how to squat properly. But eventually, eventually our trainees, after a year, all right, they've mastered this. How much more am I going to add to this? I'm going to add the 5 pounds, blah, blah, blah. So now we need to move in a different way. we're gonna throw in some of these exercises. And it's surprising how many people, you try to, some people they can do a dumbbell row, no problem. You explain to them what they should be using. Others, it's like learning how to squat all over again. I've got to take, time to discuss how to stand, how to hold, how to hold the dumbbell. That's not the shoulder, it's the back.
Too, with the dumbbell row, that's really confusing for a lot of people in terms of how they use their body, especially if they're people who have more of like a desk job, is and this is important. There's like shoulder blade movement involved in a good dumbbell row. And there's a lot of people whose shoulder blades just kind of hang out in one stuck position their back. And that's basically what happens when you're benching. I mean, the shoulder blades are moving when you're overhead pressing, which is why that's so great for shoulder health. But, that whole idea that there's, like movement to the shoulder blade is something that a lot of people's bodies in sort of a corporate setting have forgotten how to do.
Yeah. And once a person, understands how their back moves better by focusing on just the back, doing whether it's a single arm row with a dumbbell or it's, we do T-bar rows, we have a V handle, we hook under our barbell sits in a landmine. We're able to do, 2-arm rows that way. It's amazing how many people can't do that row properly. They want to use their shoulders.
Yeah.
They have no idea how to use their mid back. But then when they go to bench or squat, you can see a big difference in also in how they're holding the bar. So, it's like, well, do we want to teach somebody how to row first? Well, no, what do you do? I mean, no, eventually they're going to figure it out. You'll be able to explain it to them. But some people just also have a better body awareness to begin with, no matter what. Most people who pick up the barbell lifts more easily typically will pick up the accessory work just as easily, right? There's not as much. Ryan will appreciate this. When we had Ryan as an online client before he was coming to 5x3 and coaching for us, Diego had him start doing like split squats and rows. We called him Baby Gazelle. Because Ryan's 6'5".
You called him
Yes,
that?
we did. We called him that.
Okay.
Like, here's Baby Gazelle. He's 6'5" and strong, but he could not do a split squat to save his life. I mean, it was like pulling teeth trying to get him to learn.
And so the thinking is baby gazelles have a hard time with split squat too?
Like giraffes, like they're all over the place, they don't know how to use their limbs.
Yeah, I would think like a puppy.
No, baby gazelle, because he's long limbs. So, but it was interesting, people who can move so well under the bar, you get them to try to do a lunge and they like fall on their face. They can't. So it's important. I have a mission to, you're not just going to learn how to squat, bench, and deadlift, but you're also going to learn how to do a split squat, and you're going to learn how to do a row properly, 2-arm row, single arm row properly. You're going to learn how to do an RDL. You can deadlift, but you can't actually slide the bar down your legs without screaming in pain because you can't hinge. I don't understand how the two can go together. So we're going to work on that too. So we should be able to move in all different planes. That's just how we are in our daily life. So, but I don't want to overwhelm the person, on the first month of their training. So slowly the accessory lifts, come in as they get more confident and more comfortable with their barbell training. But so we've been talking about accessory lifts. Should we go down a list and discuss what are these? What are some exercises to do?
Just to clarify, we have talked about not accessory lifts, but variations. So lifts that are pretty darn close,
right,
to the big four. So these are not. No. These are maybe more like single joint, smaller muscle groups. So go ahead, hit it. What do you have?
So
you clearly have a list there.
I have a list, and the big ones. I mean, and you jump in, but the big ones that we like to give, and I personally give to my clients, and I do, and Diego does. So lots of tricep work, very different tricep exercises. You've got your tricep kickbacks. Love those. just load them up. Don't use a 2-pound dumbbell.
Oh my goodness.
Don't, this isn't bar class, but, actually extend and squeeze the tricep, like actually get an actual effect from that. That would be probably something, I may not start with that with somebody, but that's a one. Or you've got your cable overhead, tricep extension. I mean, anything that's going to work the tricep, rope pull downs.
And those two, just like you're talking about with that extra extension with your tricep kickback with the ropes. If you get that extra pull apart with the ropes at the bottom, get more tricep work.
You can Google all of this, right? You go tricep work, and you've got a ton of videos that are going to pop up and show all the different ways to work. To work your triceps.
Also, like I have someone who doesn't have a cable option. Like the last two you've talked about, I have them doing like a tape press.
Mm-hmm.
So with the dumbbells towards the center, tape press is another.
Bands. Bands, overhead band. Like, so if you have a good band and you have enough flexibility, put the arm behind the back and extend the band, all the way up. I mean, Diego's done variations on that. So close grip bench. I don't know if that would be like a variation, an accessory lift or a variation on the lift, but close grip bench is a great for the triceps.
I would say just to me personally, anything that's bench, you change the grip on it. That would be a variation as opposed to an accessory. Push-ups,
close grip push-ups. So if you get your hands right underneath your shoulders, you're going to get a lot more tricep work than if you have a much wider, push-up stance with your arms. So push-ups are a great exercise for your triceps, and they're a nice accessory and complementary exercise to the
and
bench.
They're portable. You can take them on vacation.
You can take them anywhere.
When somebody's like, I'm going on vacation, there's no gym. Guess what?
Push-ups. And if you can't do push-ups on the floor, that's okay. Find a bench, find a table, find a kitchen counter, start with incline push-ups. They can be done anywhere. Chin-ups. So chin-ups for your biceps. If you can do chin-ups. If you can't do chin-ups, obviously curls, dumbbell curls, barbell curls. There's so many different ways to curl. Curl with the easy bar. Curls are all over the place. You can, same thing, Google curls. Diego likes to do them with his arms by his side and a very, very deliberate kind of neutral grip. Pull the dumbbell in, kind of rotate it in, keeping your elbow close to your side, and then slowly extend it down. So there's a real eccentric part to it. So you really feel the bicep, as opposed to hauling up the dumbbell with your shoulder.
Yeah,
because it looks cool.
Well, like you're talking about the difference of eliminating momentum using just muscle as opposed to letting some other muscle hijack it.
The whole point of any of this is to really, I think to do it slowly and to get as much range of motion out of it and much tension out of it. Yeah. Rows. So we were talking dumbbell rows, single arm dumbbell rows. I like to do them, and I got this from a coach that my father had me watch his videos, and the only thing I got from him is this dumbbell row exercise, variation or alternative. Instead of having your knee up on the bench, as you see many people do, and having the arm hang down by your side, you put your hand on the bench and have both feet on the floor. So you basically are in a hinge position. You can do a staggered stance or, open the legs, wide-legged stance. But there you've got a lot more support for not just the shoulder, the opposite arm, but you're now reinforcing the hinge position. There's a lot of trunk work involved there, and you have to be even more deliberate. You can't just be doing a lawnmower row as you would if you had your knee up on the bench. There's more momentum there. We don't want that. I like to do it where you can extend, and Diego likes to do it where you extend the arm really low, and you get a really big stretch through your lat.
Yeah, big reach.
And then pull. Yeah, so there you could be very deliberate there, pausing at the top, pausing at the bottom, right? Again, not just trying to haul up as much weight as possible and use everything, but be very mindful of what you're actually trying to.
And all of these things that you're talking about adding a pause or taking your time or increasing the time under tension. Those are all sort of things that, like, especially if you're working with somebody who has a home gym, and they maybe have a limited set of dumbbells available to them. These are ways you can make a lightweight heavier. If you only have like weights that go up to, say, 40 pounds or something like that, and you need to make it heavier.
Exactly.
Slow it down.
Exactly. Everything we did a number of videos during our lockdown a couple of years ago, right? 2 years ago, on just that. Don't have access to a gym. Don't have much equipment at home. Don't have a lot of, variations, as far as weight. Pulse the bottom. Elevate your heels for like a squat to get down lower, right? I mean, various ways of doing push-ups to hit more of your tricep, to hit more of your pecs, to hit more of this. So yeah, exactly. I mean, that's the beauty of kind of doing these exercises, is that you can either go up and weight if you have a lot of weight, to make things heavier, and then you can take the reps down. Do you want to build more strength? If you're working for more bodybuilding, hypertrophy, obviously you just, take the rep range up. You can even go up to 20 reps, as needed. I mean, Wendler's programs go up or from 10 to 20 repetitions of like 5x5. That's a lot of, that's a lot of work. I mean, that's the thing. That's why the one program you do just one big lift, because most of your session is just doing the circuit. So lots of ways to vary up these lifts, as you said, to make things harder. So you've got your dumbbell rows. If you have access to a cable machine, we love our cable machine now. Seated rows, lat pull downs. Yeah. Neutral grip versus pronated grip. I just stuck a box in front of me today. So instead of having my feet on the cable machine at the bottom, I had the box out in front of me. So I got a much longer range of motion. So I was able to really extend my arms more fully before the next row. Hopefully I'll feel that tomorrow. That's my plan. So having that, access to that. Now you can do 2-arm rows there. You can still do single arm rows if you wanted to. I mean, any band work, any, if you don't have access to dumbbells or a machine, obviously bands are great.
Yeah. I mean, you can simulate a lat pull down with
Absolutely.
a band.
Absolutely.
Which,
Oh yeah.
Well too.
I had people doing that. Flip it over the pull-up bar.
Yeah.
Get down on one knee. Yes. So that's, that's a lot of upper body. So those are a lot of the upper body exercises. Those are the kind of the main ones that we like to use. Mm-hmm. I mean, I know there are so many other variations, but those are kind of the more simple ones too to teach. Especially for people who don't have a lot of time and they want to get in and get out, but they also want to get the benefit of of these accessories. Anything you want to add there? Well, dumbbell bench.
Right, yeah.
So either dumbbell bench or floor presses, dumbbell floor presses. If you don't have a bench, single arm floor presses. I love doing that. I usually do that with a neutral grip for people. And if I do the 2-arm dumbbell floor press, I'll do it as pronated. Is that right? Yeah, like double overhand. So instead of the neutral, which would be elbows in, elbows out.
So one of the things about using dumbbells that is nice as opposed to bars, you can play around with grip, and you're describing different exercises that you like to use specifically with either neutral, pronated, supinated, whatever. So what's your rationale for choosing or indicating use this grip or that grip?
I think for some people it's easier. I think it's just an easier position of people for those, for individuals who maybe aren't that comfortable with the dumbbell. It's it's easier to have them do a neutral position than the elbows out, because they may not be able to control that weight as easily. Where
just because it allows them to keep it.
Yeah, you can keep it closer to them. Mm-hmm. It's also easier on the. I find it's probably a little easier on the shoulder too. I mean, those who can control better. Sure.
Yeah. I like sometimes to vary the grip just for the variety of effects that
There's
might
that
have on
too.
a person's shoulder, like, so it's not as repetitive a movement. Something changes a little bit, and for a lot of people, especially if they have like a shoulder complaint, being able to switch things up. But I always kind of play that by ear based on the individual and the feedback they give me. I don't necessarily prescribe a grip to begin with.
It's also nice. It's also just a nice variation, variation for people in general. You know, in my boot camp class, I'll do floor presses. And if I do single arm floor presses, I do them with a neutral grip. If I have everybody that day doing 2-arm dumbbell, you know, floor presses, I do them with the elbows out. I don't do the neutral grip. That's just a little variation. And it almost feels more natural to do it that way than to do it with the neutral grip. But somehow with the single arm, it feels more natural to do a neutral grip. Overhead presses, dumbbell presses. Same thing, neutral versus elbows out. I think sometimes it's easier for some people to control that weight better with a neutral grip. Usually my older clients have an easier time. They can keep that shoulder closer to their ear than if the elbows out further out. But I give them I give them the option. They can do either, open or closed. So dumbbell presses are great accessory lifts. Standing, seated, incline dumbbell bench, decline dumbbell bench. I mean, anything you can do with the bar, you can do with a dumbbell. Don't usually do decline, but incline. Or it was a good exercise. I mean, any standing or seated presses with a dumbbell or even a kettlebell if you don't have access to a dumbbell. And then you can do single arm. Yeah. So, 2-arm, single arm. There's that unilateral work in there, especially for people who have, definitely we're all asymmetrical. We don't have, neither side works exactly the same. So that's a lot of those. That's mainly the upper body work that we do. Anything that
I was just going to say, I also actually recently have a couple people doing accessory exercises that are more geared towards the serratus. So like serratus press, or I'm blanking on the name, but like that serratus roll up the wall, that foam roller.
Yep.
And not, obviously not like their main strength exercises, but like sometimes people, if their shoulder blades are, popping, winging a little bit, trying to get that serratus targeted a little bit more can be helpful. And
pull aparts. Banded pull aparts, face pulls. Oh my God, I get face pulls and pull aparts to everybody. I do them too. Easy way to just kind of throw in those exercises in between even your big lifts.
I was at one of the gyms I went to down in South Carolina. That's basically what they do. It's like the guy that runs the place, he has a whole series of those sort of, accessory lifts, or maybe even what you might think of as PT lifts or something. So it's like he'd have his members do their main lift, and then in the wait time in between do some of those things.
Exactly.
And pull aparts, or just whatever. I
try to encourage people to do that while they're resting. Go do some wall slides, do some face pulls, do some pull aparts. They're excellent.
I love those things. People complain about them so much.
Horrible.
You wouldn't believe like how difficult a wall slide is.
Yes.
For so many people.
I can't get my left arm against the wall anymore. My left wrist. That's how the shoulder has just been over the years. I mean, I'm stronger, but since that injury back, when I was dancing, it has never been quite right. So I can get the right arm, but the range of motion from the left. So wall slides, I don't do them enough, but I do plenty of face pulls and pull aparts to make up for that. Those. Oh my God. I mean, Eric Cressy has a whole bunch of different, upper back exercises with the band, face pulls. I mean, pull aparts, no money. I love no money.
Gentle core. I like his stuff too.
I was about to say, I gave one of my clients recently who's been dealing with some shoulder issues, and she's got a range of various issues. She hasn't actually been diagnosed with Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, but she's very lax, her joints. I mean, she basically has that plus a whole bunch of other, unfortunately, other issues. Not the bat wings, not the bat wings that your fat underneath your triceps. But lying down on a bench, right? Dumbbells or kettlebells, and just holding that position, just kind of squeezing the shoulder blades together, because there's a big issue there with stability in her shoulder and, basically in her shoulders. I mean, things just pop out, pop in, pop out, pop in. And that's just given to her, her joint issues. But that's a big one for Dan John when it comes to upper back work. So lower body, before we forget about the lower body exercises. The big ones I go to are usually split squats, like either regular split squats or Bulgarian split squats, your rear foot elevated split squats, or like an accessory, like a single leg accessory exercise for people. I don't tend to do front lunges, like walking lunges. I don't like those.
If you have a choice between a front lunge and a rear lunge, I think a lot of people do better with a rear lunge.
Absolutely.
Because they don't have to decelerate in their knee. Yeah. Like there's less deceleration force happening in the knee, and it's usually more comfortable. Especially I'm thinking about that because I got a bum knee, so it talks to me.
Yeah, no, I don't like those for people. I like reverse lunges. Also for people who have, reverse lunges can be tricky, getting enough tension in the body to figure out how to take that leg back. And so holding onto a bar or using a band to give you some more stability in your trunk to help with that. I'll do that in my BT classes. For anybody doing accessory exercises for lower body, it is typically going to be a rear foot elevated split squat. It's going to be goblet squats. If I want a little extra glute work, leg and glute work there. Glute ham raises, if they can do them. If not, banded with a band, kind of with some support.
You mean the GHD machine?
The GHD, yeah.
Yeah. That thing scared me the first time they
did it.
I think Diego is.
It's hard for many people. It's not something I give regularly.
Psychologically, I was like, you want me to hang off the front of this thing?
Single leg deadlifts. And the way I do single leg deadlifts is I don't worry about the balance. This is something I got from Diego. I just do a little split stance, like with my back foot. If I'm going to work the left leg, I'm going to have the right toes, the toes on the floor, just enough of a balance, just enough to keep me in balance. But most of the stretch I'm going to feel it on the left side. So I'm going to hold the weight in my right hand and put more emphasis on the left leg when I go into that hinge.
Yeah, I like that, because I usually have people, like, I don't have them worry about the balance, but I have them do like some external stabilization, like maybe a hand on the squat rack or a hand on the wall or something to help, so that the focus isn't on like, oh crap, I'm going to fall over, but like, let's work with the heavier weight and not worry about falling over.
Yes.
But the way you're describing with the back foot down, I bet you there's a lot less rotation that way, because even if you're doing external stabilization with your hand, there's still like a lot of movement sometimes for some people, through the hips, through the torso.
Yes.
And I guess it depends what your focus is. And I'm not really getting that into the weeds with people about making sure, like, both hip bones pointing down to the ground.
The whole focus should be on the
happen more naturally with the foot on the ground.
Yeah, it should be on the hamstring. So make the emphasis on the hamstring and put your foot on the floor. Don't worry about trying to, put it up in the air and that's great and all, but we can work on that, and we can deal with that another time. We're focusing on trying to actually work the hamstring, not worry about falling on our face.
People get confused, right? Like it's the hamstring on the stance side leg, like hamstring and glute on the stance side leg. But like if people are, they're in, I think maybe it depends on their background, right? But if somebody's coming from a group fitness background where they haven't been using weights, and so then to kind of mix things up, the focus is on like, let's focus on the back leg and squeeze your glute and really reach as far as you can, because then you can feel that on the opposite leg too. And then people just get confused.
Yeah. I don't do this. I don't do a lot of these anymore, but these used to be a big staple of programming, glute bridges. I do them as a warm up, and maybe as an exercise in my boot camp class, like banded glute bridges, but I don't worry about barbell glute bridges. I don't do hip thrusts anymore, except in my BT class. And I don't do them with weight, just always body weight, but those are good.
So why did you get away from those?
I think I got away primarily because the boot camp class got so low, like just got smaller. So it became, and then, things changed. People moved away, people who I was used to kind of giving those exercises to. And I just kind of got away from them because I found, there were other exercises that I wanted to do that took precedence over that. Plus it's very cumbersome. It's a lot of extra work you have to do I started using sandbags instead of a barbell, to load the hips. Think about how much work you have to do to get the bar, to get the pad, to get the bumpers on there, to roll it on you, to roll it off of you. It's just a pain in the ass.
Yeah, Brett Contreras would be so disappointed to hear this, Emily.
I don't care about Brett Contreras. He's a pervert.
But I'll tell you, those are sort of like the hip thrusts. I don't know, they're sort of fun, but people definitely get bruised up.
Yeah.
I mean, it is such an effort to pad the bar up.
It's more of an effort. Yeah, it's more of an effort. And so I've gotten away from that. So if I'm going to give somebody extra, lower body work, I'm going to, they're going to do leg press. They're going to do they're going to do maybe the split squats. You've raised that back foot up. You get a huge stretch through that glute. Through your leg, you don't need an extra stuff that they're squatting and they're deadlifting. And so I just realized how much extra stuff you're going to do. I mean, for most people, they want to get in, they want to get out, and they want to get the most out of their training. They don't want to have to spend time loading up a bar. So I don't necessarily give those exercises anymore. I'm just kind of like, they've kind of fallen off my radar, and I've, focused on other exercises I think are more beneficial. I mean, my single leg deadlifts, I do those. I feel those more than anything, than any RDL or.
So wait, are you doing your single leg deadlift, your single leg RDL? Are you doing those with a kettlebell, dumbbell, barbell?
Kettlebell for like sets of 10. Yeah. And I like those. I think I'm going to keep doing those because that really has helped, especially me personally, has helped that left knee. As a dancer, I found that the Romanian deadlifts, I can go down so far with that bar. I either have to stand on a box to do them, to get anything out of them. And that's a pain in the butt too, to try to get that all set up. So grabbing a kettlebell and doing just a single leg deadlift, I can go all the way to the floor. I get a huge stretch. And then I actually feel like it's actually accomplishing something. When I do that, especially just as more of a rehab to help the deadlift. With my exercises, I'm trying to do them in order to make me stronger and physically more able to do the bigger lifts. Like I want my big lifts to go up. So if I can hold that, my shoulders are bigger and stronger, my back is stronger. When that bar comes out of the rack for a press, I can hold that weight in my hand. I can hold that weight on my back when I squat, right? That's my motivation. And I think that's the motivation behind that for my clients who ask for those exercises, in that more variation in their programming. It usually comes from my women. Yeah. My women want that. I give it to the guys, but the women are the ones who want the rows and the push-ups, and they want that upper body strength. They're the ones who come to me wanting to do push-ups, wanting to do chin-ups, wanting to do extra work.
Yeah, I think also just the variety too.
Exactly. Even more so, it's the variety. You're going to keep somebody training if you can throw them a little bit of a bone and it's beneficial to them. Right? What?
I'm just laughing at here's your bone.
It's like dangling a carrot in front of them.
Here's a bone.
I mean, but you're absolutely right. I mean, it's variation, and we all need it. We all need some variation, and if they're variations that are going to be complementary to people and the work that they're doing, even better. It's like, this is good for you. This is going to make that better. Okay, I'm going to do it. Make them sweat. They feel like you're working. I mean, I feel great after I do a circuit. I'm sweating. I feel like even me, it's like a little placebo. Oh, yeah, I had a great session today. I was sweating.
Well, it's like, yeah, right. Like if you're doing personal training in a non-strength facility setting, right? Like one of the things you kind of do is finish with a burner, because
That's
then
right.
a person leaves feeling like, yeah, I really did.
Yeah.
Even though you know that the work that they really did was on the, heavy squats that they did at the beginning, but you give them something at the end where they're like, oh, I got really sweaty doing that. I feel great.
We all like that. That. So why not? Why not? So I'm sure we could talk about this forever, but
I think the only other thing I would add in for lower body, because we could go on forever, is I like a lot of lateral movement assisted exercises, because what I see most often for people, they've got the whatever it is, weak glute med, and their knees come in.
Yes.
Knee comes in on squat or knee comes in on deadlift, and that's sort of like the breakdown point. In the same way that maybe on an overhead press, it's a weak tricep that's the breakdown point for a person. So you kind of, for me, a lot of people, I'll hit them up with some lateral stuff. And, a lot of it is banded just because that's easier, or they're working from home and they don't have a cable machine, but like a banded hip abduction or X walk or, that sort of thing. And in that kind of setting, that's where, I probably, if somebody's got like a mini band and they're working from home and they pop that up on their legs, up around their knees, and do some glute bridges that way, kind of at least start a conversation between their brain and their abductors, ABDs.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Hey, you need to show up on the squat. And I think because, we're teaching this starting strength low bar squat with the toes pointed out, you get a lot more ABD and glute and hamstring involved in that by design. So these trainees are going to be a lot better off than if they're doing the squat as described in the NASM handbook with parallel feet, toes pointed forward, stop high because your femur jammed into your hip bone, right?
Wonder why that happened. Just turn your toes out a little bit, it's not going to have that issue anymore. But
even still, people who have an inclination to, go valgus with their knees, sometimes they just need a little bit of extra there.
Exactly. Or you can torture them the way I torture my ladies with tempo box squats.
Tempo box squats sound fun.
Yeah. No.
Oh, but the other thing too, I was telling you, I'm doing this pregnancy postpartum exercise. And there's a lot of stuff in there about pelvic floor health. And so just being able to move through different ranges of motion and keeping your hip and pelvic structure strong all the way around, not just in the sagittal plane, helps with pelvic floor health as well. So, there's a lot of good reasons to move lots of different ways.
Yep. And that's what I'm trying to do with the clients who I have, who stick around, who, want to continue to improve their strength. Eventually they start to do some curls.
Well, you know what? So
and split squats.
I have never liked curls. They actually kind of freak me out because my biceps will get all all pumped up and then the veins pop up, and that freaks me out. I know that is what bodybuilders live for.
I love that.
Oh, gross! I can see my veins.
No, it's I come home after that and my t-shirts don't fit me. They're fitted around my arms, and I'm like, yes. And then eventually, it starts to stretch out again. I'm like, okay, now it's gone.
Yeah, no, that is not my thing.
All right, we will. I think we'll wrap it up there. Like I said, we could probably talk about this more, and maybe as we think about it, we can.
Something we touched on that maybe we want to talk about in a different episode, because whatever. But it's just different rep set schemes.
Yes.
Because that could be a 30-minute topic.
This is why we probably need to do another follow-up on this, because we gave you so many ideas of what
just the exercises are.
Exactly.
But there's Maya reps, there's jettison technique. There's all different sorts of ways of doing exercises as well that are fun.
Yeah, we mentioned in the beginning that you're going to probably do more than 5 reps.
Yeah.
So how do you program that?
Save that.
Good one. Put
it in a box and save it.
I like that. We have to come back to this for a half an hour one about, and maybe we can get Diego on, because Diego loves to talk about these things.
I can't imagine that.
All about that. So he would be a good one to have on to talk about, so we did a podcast on accessory lifts, so let's talk about programming. What do you think, Diego?
Yeah, there you go.
Awesome
We won't
ideas.
even have to talk. We'll just ask him questions.
Have some ideas. Thanks for listening, everybody. We appreciate it. And we will return to this topic, as Rebecca said, and maybe we'll have Dr. Sokolinski on. He's going to hate when he hears that.
Doctor is in.
We'll have him on to help us to kind of break down programming for the accessory list, because that was really not the topic for today. Today was just talking about the accessory lists, what they are, why we like to use them, why you might do them. Then we can talk about programming. If you have any comments, questions, concerns about any of our podcasts, we would love to hear from you. You can email me at emily@5by3.com, or you can always contact Rebecca at
cornerstonestrengthmaryland@gmail.com.
And I always listen to a bunch of podcasts, and I always hear people say, and if you like us, hit that subscribe button. So if you like what you hear, hit that subscribe button and subscribe to us so that you can always get the latest 5by3 Radio podcast downloaded every other Wednesday to your phone or wherever you listen to your podcast. Thanks, everybody. Have a great week, and we will be back in a couple weeks. Have a great one. Bye.
Here.
Thanks for listening to 5by3 Radio with Emily and Rebecca. If you like our show and want to know more about 5by3 training, please visit us at www.5, that's F-I-V-E, the letter X, the number 3.com. You can also find us on Facebook and Instagram. To learn more about Rebecca, please visit her website, cornerstonestrengthmaryland.com. Thanks for listening and have a great week.